Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on here to the latest video update. You can see some showers out into the area, a little bit of a few downpours out there. Not everyone's going to get wet today, but it's all due to a cold front that's moving through the area. As that moves through the area later this evening, boy, I think you're going to like the changes that it's going to bring with it. It's going to be, well, I think it's going to be pretty refreshing. You'll like it. As we zoom in here, maybe just a little bit closer to the area here, what you can see is, well, just not a whole lot of activity going on. There's a few little downpours here and there. Not everyone getting wet with these, though. Temperatures here in mid to upper 80s around the area, so it is still a little bit on the warm side out there, but that's going to be pretty much the story of this afternoon as we put future radar here into motion. The HER model has, through the afternoon hours, has these little storms kind of spotted about and dotted around here and there. But as we go later into the evening hours here, the front's going to be through. The instability, anything that would be there with it is gone, and we're going to be left with just pretty much clear skies after that. It's clearing skies anyway. It's going to be quite nice. In fact, we got a pretty nice forecast coming up for you. Notice down in the Gulf, here we now have what's finally gotten a name, Tropical Storm Hermine, not Hermione. I know many of you are disappointed about that. I was too. In fact, I think in a previous video I called it Hermione. I just glanced at it, but it doesn't have, oh, how disappointing that is. But that is the way things go there. But let me put this into motion and you will be, boy, my computer's wanting to go crazy when I record a video. That's just wonderful. We put this into motion and you see there's some of the storm activity, the little shower activity. Not really a whole lot going on. But behind this, though, we're going to have several dry days, and several sunshiny days with much lower humidity, and it's just going to be much more pleasant overall. As you can see here, high pressure sort of large and in charge, squelching down any chances. There'll be some rain along the coast as what you notice here is that Tropical Storm Hermine sort of works its way up the coast, and that's going to lead to some forecasting troubles for the East Coast this weekend. Very limited impact on us, though. In fact, you've got to go pretty good and far out into the future before you start to get any of these smaller type of things affect us. It will again eventually as we head into towards the 11th, 12th, 13th time frame. In a blog post I did a couple of days ago, I talked about how we head later on into the middle of the month, probably have a pretty big cold front that's going to move through and will cool us down pretty significantly again. Now, it wasn't really showing up in the modeling at that time. Is showing up in the modeling now. I could see it out in just by looking at what's going on out in the Pacific. I can see, well, the models are probably going to find something there in that time frame. Now indeed they are, so we'll track that over the coming days, but we'll have a little brief cool down and then a warm up again, and then it'll be a nice little cool down as we head later into September. I think you can see that well here on the mid-level data here. What we're looking at is the mid-level jet stream. There's Tropical Storm Hermine. I still wish it would be called Hermione. I think that would be a whole lot cooler. That moves up to the east coast, and once that moves out of the way, what you notice is this ridge of high pressure in the southeast is going to be able to build back in here. That'll spell a nice little warm up for us again, but it won't last long. It'll last for a little while until, as we head a little bit later on into the month, there is that big cold front moving through as you head into about the 12th to the 14th, 15th, somewhere around in there. We'll just say anywhere from about the 11th to the 15th, somewhere in that time frame. The reality is the models are going to adjust back and forth on this. They'll fine-tune that date as it gets a little bit closer, but that will move out of the way. And it's possible we still may have some ups and downs as we head after that too, but as we look at the raw data from the ensembles here, as you get down into here, not too bad. You're talking, well, I mean, just sort of look at this, just beautiful weather here. You're talking the potential for a couple, maybe even 370, upper 70-degree days, certainly some low 80s, even here on Saturday, a mostly sunny sky and 82. The trend is going to be certainly in an up direction, and by the time you get into next week, the 90s are going to return at least for a limited time. But then once that cold front, that more powerful cold front, starts to move in sometime down here around the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th, as you get over here, what you're going to see is we'll see a nice little cool down off of this again. So it's going to be kind of an up and and down month. Still think there's going to be quite a bit of warmth in September. I really do think that, but it's going to be very much an up and down month as you head into this. All right. Well, let's talk just really quickly then before we finish about the tropical storm and what's going on there. If you've got plans this weekend, let me just sort of put it this way. You will want to watch this. Even if you're not heading down there, this, if you're flying, it very well could cause some flight delays out of there. There's Hermine as it's spinning up down here in the Gulf. The Euro model here is wanting to make landfall right around Apalachicola area. St. George Island, right around in there, here in what's called the Forgotten Coast. If you've never traveled down there, by the way, I highly recommend it. We did a vacation as a family there last year, I believe it was, and it was a beautiful area down there. It had the beautiful white sands of that you would see in in Panama City and things like that, but without the tourist, and that was certainly more appealing to me. Beautiful down there, but they're under the gun from their landfall the way it looks. The National Hurricane Center still has it more in the Big Bend area, and if you're not familiar with what Florida is, let me just illustrate. Apalachicola is right here. This is the Big Bend area of Florida right there. The National Hurricane Center, I believe, takes the track more like this. Euro's taking it more like this. As you put it into motion, you can kind of see that. Then it goes quickly here on Saturday morning up into the Carolinas, and then watch this. It sort of blows up into something, so by the time Sunday morning comes along, you got some trouble coming up here into New England, and it's going to be a forecasting nightmare if the Euro is right, because it just sort of sits out here and spins for a while, maybe even regenerates and causes some issues there. So it could be a very wet weekend and week up there if the Euro is to believe. That's still out there, but nonetheless, once it moves through here, it's going to be some forecasting problems for the East Coast, my friends. Tropical Storm Hermine right now, there it is. Maximum sustained winds about 40 miles an hour, and there you can see its predicted path. They have adjusted a little bit. They were taking it more into the Big Bend area. They've adjusted back up here, but again, landfall, according to the model consensus now, really, as you can see here, is more along the Apalachicola area, and that would be if we were to draw this where the model consensus is now would be right about here. So this would be a path more like this, based on what the modeling is showing, and then a path more like this in the modeling, rather than what the Hurricane Center is facing out there. Don't want to criticize the Hurricane Center. They've got their hands full. This is a tough storm to predict. And of course, if you follow these, you notice that it is not by any means played nice. They've kept saying for days it's going to become a storm, and it's a state of depression. So not a nice system at all. There's good chance this could even become a Category 1 hurricane. There are some models that are indicating that. All the consensus, though, is landfall right here, not over the Big Bend area, but in the Panhandle area, probably right around Apalachicola over to Crawfordsville, and maybe as far west as Panama City, but in that area of Florida. And then notice it crosses up here into Georgia, into the Carolinas, and tracks out along the coast. Further you get out in time, the further discrepancy you see for where there is. If we take a look at what the GFS ensembles are saying, pretty similar to that as well. Take a look at what the guidance intensity is suggesting for this. Pretty much everything keeping this a tropical storm except for a couple of models, maybe 3 here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 of them that's suggesting it does get up into a Category 1 hurricane. So it's got to be watched. In fact, if you go out here and you take a look at this, you can see the watches and warnings here. In the blue is a tropical storm warning all over there, and then in the pink along these coasts is a hurricane watch. So there's a possibility this still could become a hurricane, but it is winding down its number of days. I do suspect, though, probably by the time that we see another track on this, I think what you're going to see is a more westward track. I think what you're going to see is a track more centered along this than what they've got it. But we'll see what the Hurricane Center does with their next update. Based on the latest data rolling in, that's sort of how I would put it. Either way, as you've noticed, though, no real effect on us here in Indiana. But again, if you're traveling, if you're flying especially, I would call ahead and check on your flights before you go, because certainly flights all up and down the East Coast here with this weekend. You notice here's where it's at Saturday, and again, if this is a more of an eastward track here, you're talking you're talking landfall here on Thursday sometime, and then if it goes up more in this direction, like what the models are indicating here, this could be Saturday right in here, and you could be Friday somewhere right in here. Sunday could be right up in here, so that could cause some weekend travel problems with a lot of rain and wind in here that could ground a lot of flights. So bottom line is, even if you're flying out west, let's say, that's all interconnected across the United States with these things. So flight problems could be a big headache this weekend. You'll certainly want to keep track of that. Otherwise, your driving not going to be that bad. And for our weekend forecast, you really just can't beat it. You can take a look at the 10-day forecast. The hurricane's not really going to have much of an effect on us. You can go to southernindianaweather.com, click on 10-day forecast, and you can get this. There's those showers today, but look at this. By the time you go through the weekend here, 80 Thursday, 78 Friday, maybe about 82 Saturday, 84 Sunday, up into the middle 80s to upper 80s there as you go into Labor Day itself. But that's not a bad weekend by any means. And of course, lower humidity will be the story once this cold front moves through. That's going to usher in a much more pleasant regime. So it's going to be cooler temperatures and much, much, much lower humidity. I'm not going to complain about that. As we open September, that's a pretty good way to open up meteorological fall, if you want my opinion. Well, that's it for this update, folks. We'll have another one of these for you later in the week. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.